In this audio, I'm going to discuss how can you expedite a green card application. There are essentially 3 separate steps involved in a green card application if somebody is outside of the United States. Part 1, you file with USCIS. Once USCIS approved, then they will forward it to National Visa Center, NVC, the acronym NVC. NVC is the middle guy between US immigration and the US consulate where you reside. And then the third part is the US consulate, US embassy. Typically, green card applications will take 20 plus months in order for the green card to be issued and you permitted to come into the United States. And at the time of this recording, we anticipate them taking longer. It's going to be a more protracted route. We have a new president-elect, President Trump, who's going to take office in the new year, 2025. And there are many discussions about the implications on immigration based on his words spoken during his campaign consistently. So the bellwether is to assume that there are going to be dramatic changes, and this may cause immigration applications to have a longer, more protracted processing. So are there avenues if you wish to expedite? How can you get in sooner than this 20 plus months? In fact, it can take over 2 years. So let's investigate these and go through them to see if you do qualify for any. Well, then you absolutely would want to be availing of them. I'm going to fast forward and then I'm going to come back to the I-130 because there is a relatively unknown way of expediting this. NVC does permit you to request an expedite. You can send a specific email. They have a format that they want you to send if you wish to expedite your application with them. And the ground that you must be able to prove and provide substantive evidence is hardship ground. Do you have a hardship ground that you can argue and prove to NVC for them to expedite your case? For example, a hardship ground could be a health concern. For example, I've had clients in the past, something happens to their health. There's now a requirement where we want to expedite the process. If the hardship ground is reasonable, believable, you have the evidence to support it, then NVC will expedite their adjudication. And this can take off months off the processing with NVC. How can you expedite the I-130 petition, the alien relative petition? If you wish to request an expedite on the I-130 with USCIS, here is how you go about doing it. If you have an exceptional circumstance, and I'll go down through typical examples of exceptional circumstances, then you can request the US consulate where you reside to adjudicate the I-130 petition. So USCIS is not adjudicating the I-130. Typically USCIS, it will take them circa 8 plus months to adjudicate an I-130. The average I see in my office is 10 months. That's a clean application with no request for further evidence. It's a minimum 10 months. If you have an exceptional circumstance, then you essentially are bypassing US immigration and you are requesting the US consulate, US embassy where you reside to now adjudicate your I-130 application. And this will significantly reduce the time it takes USCIS to process the same application. There is no guarantee that the consulate will accept your request for them to adjudicate the I-130, even if you can prove exceptional circumstances. It is discretionary on the consulate whether they will accept it. Examples of exceptional circumstances which USCIS will likely authorize the home US consulate to accept and process the I-130 would be things such as, now this list is not exhaustive. You're really looking for compelling humanitarian reasons in order to request this. Things such as medical emergencies, military emergencies, threat to personal safety. If someone is close to aging out, maybe there's a child involved in the application. Adoption of a child. I have used the following in cases successfully. Short notice of position relocation, where, for example, a US petitioner has received a job offer in the United States with little notice to accept and relocate. So there's absolutely an exigent need why you need to be able to get your I-130 approved and adjudicated quickly. When I'm submitting these applications to the US consulate, because obviously it's discretionary, so you want to really have a good, strong, supportive case to essentially try and convince a consular officer to accept this. You want to have a detailed narrative explaining why you feel that you have this exceptional circumstance. Explain in detail what is your exceptional circumstance. And of course, the corroborating substantive evidence to support this. It's better to go above and beyond in terms of your documentation than have an officer try and piece it together for you, because no, they're not going to approve you if that's what they're expected to do. What happens if the consulate denies your request? Does this mean that it impacts US immigration then accepting? No, it doesn't. As long as there's no fraud committed in an application, then if the consulate denies your request for them to adjudicate, then you will have to file with USCIS and they will then adjudicate your I-130 petition.